So thank you, Nick, for being here and for taking time out of your very busy schedule. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So from a guidance standpoint, Nick, I mean, you have actually interacted with technology players who are manufacturing technology, and they're hoping that their technology meets the standards of the cloud, and eventually that becomes the standard. And then you've gone back to corporates, you've gone back to CIOs who are quite confused, but they know they have to adopt, but they're very wary of the security and and things like that. And then you've interacted with service providers like HCL, who are trying to integrate the work streams and orchestrate the work streams between vertical clouds and horizontal clouds, and making the whole thing work for actually the CIO. So, question to you is, what is your essential guidance to technology providers? What would your essential guidance be to service providers like us?
To realize, I think, that the fundamental nature of IT and business has changed. In that increasingly, the old world, the old technologies aren't going to go away overnight. I mean, one thing we know about the history of IT and business is that a new innovation, a new development doesn't entirely displace everything that came before. You have, companies continued to use mainframes as they moved to mini computers and microcomputers and client server systems, and so it's almost like different layers build up over time, particularly in large, well-established companies. But what does change is the focus of innovation, the focus of investment, the focus of figuring out new ways to get value from the technology. And what we've seen in IT, I think, already is a shift to the cloud as the focus of new investment and new innovation. And it seems to me that, one thing this means is that many IT providers that once operated kind of in isolation within a small sub-industry themselves, storage makers, server makers, network guys, ERP systems and stuff, which could all compete in kind of subsets of IT industry. More and more, those boundaries are just breaking down. And as we move from the component world to the service world, you can no longer draw distinctions between the network guy and the software guy and the server guy and everything else. And so that leads to an explosion in competition, I think, that we haven't seen before. And it also means, in the long run, that the end user, the customer, is going to focus more and more on integration, on having interoperability, on being able to kind of mix and match various hybrid services, some that they're going to produce themselves in their own private clouds, others that are going to come from the public grid, others that are going to come from vertical clouds, maybe geared towards certain industries. And increasingly the focus, the kind of major need there is, how do we integrate all these things? How do we, and do it in a flexible way that allows us to shift very quickly between different services? And so I think, one of the big challenges for the IT industry, and in some ways this can go against an individual supplier's belief that they need to kind of keep their own services separate and kind of differentiated, is providing interfaces, integration platforms that allow all of these different services from many different suppliers to be integrated at the end user level. And I think that there's going to be a tension between the supplier that wants to kind of keep a service proprietary in order to maximize its individual profitability, versus the trend toward from end users to want ever more integration, ever more interoperability between all these services.
Mm-hmm. Great, Nick. So thank you so much for your time, and all the best for you afterward, and we really appreciate your insight and your comments.
Thanks very much, Anubhav.